Grant,
Here.
Whitby,
Here.
Mark,
Here.
and Sport.
Here.
Quorum. The minutes of the last meeting.
Move adoption as presented.
Support. Motion and support to adopt the minutes as presented. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the agenda. Any additions?
I move that I accept the agenda.
Support. Motion and support to accept the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Secretary report.
I did have a couple of folks that, discussed some training with me, but I didn't get any training hours. Rob, you attended something?
Yeah,
How many hours
it was
was it?
1 hour.
Okay. And then Chuck, you attended something at MSU?
Yeah, that, the MCC.
Oh, that one, okay.
Yeah.
You got everybody that attended that?
I don't know who all attended that, so.
Well, May was 4.
We got the,
I attended the May one.
Okay, so
I was at
Armin?
that one. I attended both of them.
So,
I attended the last one.
Mike, you were there?
Yes.
Mike Scott and Mike Beach. You had it too?
Yeah, I was there too.
Anybody else? Chuck.
Moving on, new business. Item 1, Village of Howard Saver and the Township Master Plan. I think that was in your packet. And then you see Armin had a lot of extra paper, so we printed it. Print both sides, it takes half. Did anybody have any comments on? I'll comment a little bit if it's okay. I did meet with both the township and the village. When they wrote the first joint master plan, I was at the village yet, so I was involved in it. So the changes in here there's some changes, but nothing drastic. It basically follows the program they had before, so I think it's pretty good.
They've never heard of the phrase 25 words or less. The size of this document's pretty.
Well, you wanna be thorough. They got paid by the word.
I guess I'm getting old, I go to sleep about halfway through.
That's a cure for insomnia, you get that, read it.
Oh, okay.
I just, quick comment that, I appreciate the respect for the Right to Farm Act and also encouraging farms to venture into retail. Seems like they're really encouraging that, so.
Probably, Howard City probably is one of the, of course, it's a large, it's 2 square miles versus most villages are a mile. And we do have quite a bit of farming going on within the village limits of Howard City, so. Unfortunately, the manure goes right past my house. So. There's no other comments, questions, it's okay, we'll just write a letter back to the village and township saying that we reviewed it, there's no comments.
Okay.
Isabella County Planning Commission, that's their intent to amend their master plan, they haven't got it done yet, so we will be notified when that's done, and it'll be available for us to make comments on. Any questions on? Nothing to question, I guess, other than their intent. Okay, item 3. Douglas Township proposed ordinance amending wind energy conversion systems. Any comments?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Starting that in, next time we're starting this.
So, it seems like a lot of effort went into, creating the illusion that they're trying to preserve character of the township. and, you know, meetings and everything, but just, I mean, seeing how Apex works, I think if they have a lease, that's gonna override anything. So I'm kinda a little skeptical of that. Next thing I got to was on the lakes. And it says in here that, within 1 mile of all the lakes, including Clifford Lake in here. And I believe Clifford Lake has been designated a lake port. And that's, I guess I got some information that's been extended to 1.89 miles. So that's not reflected in here, so, yeah, it's just kinda, that's what else isn't updated, I guess. And then kept going a little further, and this is the one that really made me laugh, it was on page 9. And going into the, pre-application conferences, it says, the applicant shall afford each member of the public in attendance an opportunity to speak for not less than 3 minutes. I'm trying to understand, if you don't speak for 3 minutes, what happens? And it just makes me question.
Is the opportunity to speak, that means, what that wording just means that they have at least 3 minutes to speak. They can't give them less.
But why just say unlimited then? I put,
No, I'm just going by what you said. That it
Right.
says that it will afford them the opportunity to speak for not less than 3 minutes.
If they so choose.
so I guess I'm not sure what that's saying.
That says, it just says that they cannot give them less than 3 minutes.
It also says it doesn't give them any more than 3 minutes, no 4 minutes, you're done.
But what if we speak for less than 3 minutes?
And you're okay. You're okay.
What's this? Okay.
What it is, if somebody wants to talk, because, you know, different people got different needs and wants or talk, add some more words, like what I'm doing right now. 3 minutes is not enough for them to exercise their thoughts. I don't like those comments, but I mean, that's what's there, so that's the definition. I mean,
Anything else, Chris?
I have one additional comment, on page,
some positives that I thought were written into the Douglas Wind ordinance was, this is the only ordinance that I think we've reviewed where they put a detailed road use agreement in. I know that they have to do that, but they included it in the ordinance. They also included a drain use agreement in the ordinance and a complaint resolution. I think that's how it got to 41 pages, but I did have 3 points that I was somewhat concerned with. 10 pages on noise and sound, that seems excessive to me. And it also includes LMAX, which is restrictive, and it starts on page 25. The 500-foot height may not be restrictive, but it's not in line with today's technology and farmland protection. That starts as item B on page 18. And I would suggest that they reconsider the non-participating parcel setback of 1,500 feet from the property line on page 17, which again seems excessive. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else? Any other comments? Make a motion to forward these comments on.
So moved.
As long as with, Dan's too, or Chris's too.
Yeah, the only thing that I guess supporting the misunderstanding in the text that might, that Chris was referring to, is it does say will speak not less than 3 minutes. So if they mean to say not more than 3 minutes, then they should probably say not more than 3 minutes. Otherwise,
I think that clarifies that standard.
Did you make a motion, Jen?
I did.
Second. Oh,
Fireman?
go ahead, Arlen. I have a motion and a second to forward the comments on the Douglas Township Wood ordinance as discussed to the township. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. There we go. Did that cover both of Douglas's,
I think it does, from the standpoint that it took me a while to figure out what they were trying to do, but then after I reread the first page of the second one, it says in case that, it's anything, any legal action taken and so forth, and it gets knocked out, then they fall back to the second one,
okay.
10 pages. That's my interpretation.
In your motion, I'm not trying to redo something,
Yeah,
we can refer to both
Yes.
items in there, okay.
I guess I had a question on the second one, I thought I didn't want to move it together.
Okay.
All right, I'll back off.
We voted.
I'll leave it first.
I think, sounds to me there was some issue as to the validity of the other one. It's a little research on this. But you're right, that if something happens in the first one, that is what the intent is to fall back on the second one, but there's some issue that there's supposed to be notice in the paper, or they said there was a notice in the paper and there wasn't, and there's some controversy around the validity of that one too. Yes.
Okay, that, you're referring to how they noticed it and so on.
Yeah.
So that's really not something we need to deal with. That's an issue that
Okay.
noticing it, they'll have to take up with the legality of it within their township.
Okay.
Did we go on that?
No.
Okay, have a motion second, is that okay, Chris? Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Cato Township, wind ordinance. Okay, we'll start on my left this time, how's that?
Okay, thank you. opinion in reviewing, this ordinance is that it's, far too broad, restrictive, and borders on being exclusionary. The restrictive items, the minimum setback from lakes, streams, and wetlands is 1.5 miles, which essentially prohibits installation of wind turbines in Cato Township. If you go to Eagle and pull up Cato Township and their wetlands map, I didn't make a copy of it, but you can see that's the 6 square miles of Cato Township, and that's all the block out. And remember the grid that each one of these little squares is only a mile, so you can't, I don't think you can find a place that you can, put a tower in. That's, described on page 10, shadow flicker on page 9, height limits of 4 feet, while this in itself may not be restrictive. Product availability to build one under 400 feet is questionable. Efficiency is reduced and more turbines are required, thereby affecting farmland protection. Again, page 9. Shadow flicker on page 9. Requirements to bury power lines to a depth no less than 10 feet below grade is on page 9. And the whole noise compliance section on page 9 and 10. To me, this ordinance appears to be designed to prevent the installation of wind turbines in Cato Township. Thanks.
Good. Sounds good.
The English and Spanish one, I had that here again.
Dan?
I have no comments.
Frank?
I have no comments on this.
Chris?
I guess my question is, how is this gonna be reflected in the minutes? Is John's opinion or the board's opinion?
Well, it's up to the board when we call for vote, to vote whether you want them or not. Majority rules. So if you don't like it, and I've got a couple comments in the room, so you can vote no, whatever. Okay. Okay. We've looked at quite a few of these, and they keep coming back. Some have fairly restrictive things, and some have not so restrictive things in them. And I think it's very important that we point out, this board points out what they feel pertaining to what are, under the zoning enablement act says we're supposed to deal with restrictive ordinances. But I also think that these townships have spent a lot of time and money and effort to get these ordinances established, and they've used attorneys and planners and so on. And it's fine for us to point out what we feel is wrong, but in the end, it's gonna be up to the township to deal with any restrictions that people go back and court on, so we're not involved in it. So, it's fair, they can use our comments, but they don't have to, and I appreciate them, they've spent, a lot of townships spent a lot of money on this, and I hate to see them end up in court, but that's my comment, so. Any other comments on the Cato Township? You wanna forward the comments that have been made to Cato Township? So moved.
Okay.
Motion is second to forward the comments have been made to Cato Township for their review. Any further discussion?
I think should be made, they already have some leases in the township.
That's for others to decide,
Yeah.
not for us. Motion is second. Further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, old business. It's getting older. We sent out our 3 RFPs RFPs for the general plan. None of them came back, right? One responded and said they were just going out of business, is that correct? The other two did not. Last Friday, I was at the West Michigan Regional Planning Commission with Dave B. He is getting together a list of 4 or 5 companies that would be interested. He's doing some research for us. And, so they'll be forthcoming. So as soon as he gets those, I'll get them to Brenda and we'll get that sent off.
I thought maybe he'd jump in since he was laid up and everything, say that'd be something for me to do in my off time.
Didn't he say that he was busy?
Yeah, he did, yeah, absolutely.
Met the new planner that they hired. I thought my grandson was sitting there, but
Oh,
seemed to be a nice young man, so. That is what, anything else on old business?
did he give you a timeline when he would get back to you?
Well, when I asked him when I could get it, he says, blame me, and I'll get with you as quick as I can. So I'll check, I'm gonna check with him next
I
month,
don't remember.
because I know Dave, I have to check with him. Okay, no other old business, public comment?
Here, right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Pam Hemmis, Montcalm Township. And I would
Welcome,
like,
ma'am.
excuse me?
It's a welcome.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna read something that's from the msu.edu, just a portion of it. As with any issue, a member of a planning commission should never publicly or privately announce support or opposition to a wind energy project before the case has been heard and the hearing is over. Non-conforming land uses still must be allowed to continue, and regulations must not result in the taking of private property. Equal protection of all persons is still a standard to be followed. The hierarchy for different types of municipal and county ordinances also stays the same. And I'm gonna read that first paragraph again, just to emphasize it. As with any issue, a member of the planning commission should never publicly or privately announce support or opposition to a wind energy project before the case has been heard and the hearing is over. And I just wanted to add that our concern, or your concern, the planning commission's concern, is not whether or not they can be placed in our townships or should be placed, but is it possible to place them safely? And many of us don't agree that it is, except for a very few. There could be a very few placed in our townships safely, and then it is no longer prohibitive or exclusionary. And I think you need to be more concerned about the people, the safety of the people of the townships and of the county. And as for the farmland protection, what about the citizen protection?
I'll get you, no, sir, I'll get you, you're next.
Good afternoon, my name is Brandy Clark Hubbard and I'm a member of the Cato Township Planning Commission. I've lived in Cato Township for most of my life. First, I'd like to thank you guys for your time and your comments. I do have to say I respectfully disagree with several that have been made. This proposed ordinance that we as the Cato Township Commission have drafted feel is what's right for our township. After hours and hours of thoughts, research, and consideration. We have something very unique in Cato Township, as we do throughout all of Montcalm County. And from what our commission has seen and heard over the past year and a half, is that the majority of taxpayers don't seem to want the huge industrial machines scattered throughout the township. And I can't say that I blame them. We are and have always been a rural agricultural community, not a rural industrial community. We hear Gratiot County mentioned over and over again, which has literally covered itself with turbines in many places. And I think we have to point out that there is a huge distinction between the landscape in Montcalm and Gratiot counties. Gratiot's landscape tends to be more flat and open, without a lot of the lakes that we have here in Montcalm County, and not nearly as dense densely populated in, its farming sectors. Cato Township has many lakes, two of which are used to land, float, airplanes. We also have a municipal airport that's a huge contributor to our, local farming community. And lastly, we have a countryside that's highly parceled, with residential houses, intermixed with farmland all over the place. So the bottom line is there are very few suitable places to safely site, these industrial-sized wind turbines in Cato Township. And thank you for pointing out the time that's gone into this, and we've invested significant dollars to have an attorney thoroughly review and vet this ordinance. It is protective of taxpayers, to be sure, but not to the point of being exclusionary to others. There's been significant compromise, and there are various options at our disposal for the future, if we decide that modifications would be appropriate. And just a few extra comments, that kind of concludes my comments about the ordinance, but maybe as a commission, just as a taxpayer, maybe seeing you guys hold a few more conversations about the topic of on-site renewable sources for both home and business owners. I'd like to see some discussion on that and maybe push for and support those incentives and tax credits at the homeowner level. On-site renewables, can be the geothermal, the solar, or even wind on-site at residences. I'd like to see the commission discuss and maybe promote reputable or viable vendors that sell and install on-site renewables, in particular those made in America. I think the concept would be met with a lot more warmth from the general public than these industrial-sized turbines, and would provide a potential opportunity and value to all taxpayers and not just a few. And then finally, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but in coming to here, I like to read minutes beforehand on commissions, and I was looking on the website and I could only find minutes up to 2017. I couldn't find anything after that, so I guess if maybe you guys could look into that and post your minutes on the website, that would be appreciated. So, thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Robert Scott. I'm from Sydney Township. I recently published an article in the Daily News. I just want to read part of it to you. It's titled, "Have the Montcalm County Planners Lost Their Way?" And what I've done is I've pulled out sections of your existing general plan from 2013 and quoted many sections of it. And what I said is, by its terms, the general plan encourages township to prepare local plans and zoning ordinances consistent with this plan. And then here are some of the values, objectives, and goals stated in the plan that townships are expected to follow. The most common landscape, now this is a quote from your plan. The most common landscape view in Montcalm County continues to be a mix of farm fields, meadows, wetlands, river and lake shores, and woods. Rather than succumbing to sprawl and the attendant loss of natural visual character that is occurring throughout the rest of the state, the alluring characteristics that initially attracted residences and businesses to the county have been maintained, in some cases enhanced. The rural landscape does more than simply provide scenery. The benefits of nature to residents' mental well-being and the attraction to it for visitors are important. New growth and development have occurred in compact form and locations that retain ample open space throughout the county, reinforcing the scenic visual character rather than detracting from it. One of the objectives is to preserve Montcalm County's unique agricultural sector and promote mutually healthy relationships between farm and non-farm residential neighbors. One of the goals is to preserve Montcalm County's natural resources and the beauty of its landscape. Another goal is to maintain the visibility of the primary lake residential communities in the county. The zoning ordinance or wind ordinance that Cato Township has put together does exactly that. To put industrial wind turbines that are 600 or 700 feet tall, 1,000 or 1,500 feet from people's houses or property lines is not consistent with that. So any comments you've made, I think, are inconsistent. Are contrary to what are in the Cato Township wind ordinance, are clearly contrary to the objectives this body addressed and accepted in 2013. I have copies of the article if you would like to have it. If I can get it to your secretary, maybe she can distribute it to the members. Thank you.
Thank you.
anybody who hasn't leased the opportunity to keep their integrity to their property. We have waivers in here, so if whoever's lease wants to go out there and obtain these waivers so that they can get turbines closer to their homes, that's out there. We have a waiver system. It doesn't make it exclusionary. They make them at 350 feet. We had a great lawyer, she helped with the process. We have amazing planning commissioners that put in hours of research. They didn't take this lightly. They worked hard. So I don't think we need to sit here and write an ordinance for Apex. We need to write one for the citizens. We've had multiple meetings where there has been great negotiations. There's been great conversation between the community and our planning commission members. They didn't take one side or the other, they combined them. They did a fantastic job. So, thank you for all your work, we really do appreciate it.
Limbo in Cato Township. What I have is an invitation to the Montcalm Wind picnic and cookout and meeting. And the special guests are Pat Carr, not saying anybody that's not here, John Johansson, maybe there's some, Del Christensen, Don Schmucker, and Albert. So, piggybacking on Jamie, having the paperwork, thanks for pointing that, it's pretty clear that some members are leaning, I'd say,